Hey, what's going on, everybody? We are here back from Canada. Oh, my goodness. It was a ride. It was a ride and a half. Actually, give me 1 second. I want to change this lighting. This lighting is horrifically awful. It's, sorry about that. I realized. Here we go. There we go. There we go. That's much better. I wouldn't say much more better because that would be improper English, but we are back. So, guys, absolutely fantastic weekend in Canada. Loved doing, got back, my goodness, got back Saturday in time for my boot camp. Super awesome to be back with you guys. It was an eventful time in Canada. You guys saw the debate between Dion and Zuber on his channel regarding the 50-year mortgage. And then I chimed in with some stuff. But what I wanted to kind of further expand upon was a couple things. One, something that's never, ever happened to you before. It did just happen for the very first time. And it's one of those things that I got to be honest. It was a little bit nerve wracking. It was sad. But before I get into that real serious thing, wanted to just say, as I looked around Canada and was taught how to say the word Toronto, it's actually Toronto. I did my Canadian brethren good there. But as we were there at the show, the thing that I recognized was, I'm watching multi-$1,000 card deals. I'm watching cash in the tens of thousands of dollars. I'm watching deals be put together of, 500, 5,000, 50,000. I saw some six-figure transactions. Honest to God, it was just absolutely unbelievable to watch. And so, again, but when I talked to everybody there, here was the most interesting stat that I heard. It was a bunch of guys from Vancouver. And when we were talking about it, I said, because the show was in Toronto, Vancouver's on the opposite side, basically, or all the way to the coast, to the left coast, in Canada. Vancouver, British Columbia. And the conversation that we had, they were talking a lot about the States. I said, so what are you seeing? What's going on? And I always kind of like just chat people up just because I want to see what they're seeing. And so it was really interesting. The thing that they were consistently saying was, man, there's a lot of US money here. There's a lot of US money. Like our exchange rate's phenomenal. It's like 71 cents US is $1 Canadian. So it's pretty powerful, the exchange rate. I mean, it was like a couple of years ago, it was basically even. And now it's not. It's not even close. Now, their prices were a lot more expensive. But the things that I kind of took away was, yes, Canadian life is very expensive. They make about 30 to 40% less in Canada than they do in the States for the same job, 30 to 40% less. Meanwhile, just outside of Toronto, you're looking at, housing prices being $800,000 to $850,000 for a median home, a typical home in Canada. And, that was really much more affordable when interest rates were zero. And that's what really created this massive boom to this number. The challenge is that now rates are no longer that. And in Canada, they really only have 3 banks that do mortgages. I think there's might be a fourth, but it's 3 main banks that do mortgages. It's not like the States where there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of options, or even thousands of options. There's thousands of options in the state. That doesn't exist there. The other thing that doesn't exist there is 30-year fixed rate debt. So while we're talking about 50-year fixed rate debt here in the States, while we're talking about 50-year fixed rate debt here in the States, they're still at 5-year adjustable rate debt. They buy a house for 5 years, it's locked in at that rate, and then it does a rate reset after 5 years. That's why so many people there are absolutely broken and house poor. Think about what the mortgage is on a 0% or, not zero, but 2% loan, 2.5% loan. Now think about what it is at a 7% loan or a 6% loan. That's a massive payment. That, guys, what we always talk about, right? It's the price of the payment is what really adjusts and shifts things. It's the price of the payment. So as we look at the price of the payment, your payment went from a few $1,000s or, $2,000 or $3,000 to way, 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 way over that. You could be at $6,000 a month. Well, I know a lot of like 6-figure jobs here are not 6-figure jobs there. In fact, when I worked for a Canadian company, I went to go hire something called a pre-sales tech engineer. I went to go take care of, I would do 1,000-year mortgages if they let me. Of course you would, Dion. And I would do the same because that's just smart. But anyway, I'm gonna less squirrel and more focus on this for you guys because the numbers just absolutely blew me away. So I was an executive vice president of global strategy for a software company. That software company was states. We sold to a Canadian company. When we sold to that Canadian company, there was some friction. There was just some friction kind of lifestyle wise. And kind of like, just kind of how things are done. It's just different. And I won't go into all that detail, but the thing that struck me the most was we had opened up a couple of recs to try and hire some people. So when yes, exactly. Thank you, Hyder. Yeah. Double tap, guys, like this video, get that algorithm going. Let's get 100 people in the room. Let's get 100 people in the room. Let's have some fun. But as I'm going through this process, they said, hey, listen, I want to hire a pre-sales person. Thank you, Josh. I appreciate you. So as we're going through this process, I'm sitting there going, okay, this is what I need. I come back and I was like, this is what the budget needs to be for a qualified person that I need. The quality of the person, the qualifications of the person, their experience. That was about $150,000 to $175,000 a year job. It's a big job. It's a big job to be a lead. What we call them sometimes is product evangelists. But it's a big job. So here's one of the really interesting things about it. So we're going through the process with HR. We say, this is exactly what we need. What's the rate of housing mortgage in America? Hey, Alexa, good to see you. The rate of mortgage in the States right now, you can get rates into the high fives, but mostly it's above 6. Mostly it's above 6%. So the conversation around that $170,000, $150,000, $175,000 a year employee, they actually denied my rec. And I go, guys, I need this rec. They're like, we're only going to let you hire Canadian. I'm like, whoa, this sucks. And it's not because Canadians suck. It's because they didn't have any companies in Canada that do what we did. That was one of the reasons for the acquisition of us. So I'm going to have to train somebody, teach them. And I was like, that's not what I want. That takes a ton of time. It takes years to become an expert in our product. I know I was one of the foremost global experts in something called RPA and RPA AI, or bot assisted automation. I'm one of the foremost experts, or was 2 years ago. It's changed a little bit, but not that much. And that's like the precursor to AI. And it clicks into AI and how AI works. So what was really interesting about this is that they came back and I said, all right, let's talk about this. What's this job pay? And they're like, well, it's going to pay, about 80,000 Canadian. What? It's going to pay 80 grand Canadian? What? That makes no sense. 80,000 US? Guys, that makes no sense. That makes no sense. Millennial Mike, I'll read this in a second. So I'm just blown away. So then we go down this path and we start trying to hire. And honestly, we get a great candidate for that amount of money. Listen, it's just like most things in life. You get what you pay for. And so that 80,000 Canadian was like 60,000 US. The cost of what I wanted was 3x that. 3x. Now, he wasn't a third as good, but he was decent. It was going to take some work. It was going to take a lot of education. Very nice, very smart. And that's why he got the job. But again, a Clydesdale is never going to be a thoroughbred. And so while they can take the heavy lifting, there's things that they just can't do. And not out of the gate anyway. So I say all that to say, you're looking at median home prices of $850,000 just outside Toronto, or in the Toronto, burbs. And there's not much like that in the US. And the income is, again, they're making 40% what you are. In this case, like I mentioned with this person, they were making 80K, 90K Canadian. I was looking at 175 US. So these 6-figure jobs in the US, you guys know, they're plentiful. When you get into tech, they're all over the place. Like a lot of receptionists are knocking on the door of, or executive assistants are knocking on the door of $100,000 jobs, and typically more when they're working for larger, not in size, but in importance, larger companies. So when we look at this, what we're really trying to understand is as what's going on with the global market, but as what's going on with Canada. I said to the guys, I said, so what are you guys seeing in Vancouver? Like, what's the prevailing thought there? Vancouver, also very expensive to live. Vancouver has a massive, unbelievably massive drug problem. Massive drug problem. But you know what they said was the biggest and scariest thing? Unemployment. Unemployment, and this was something that they were okay with. Unemployment for 30 under typically was 6 to 7%. This is what this gaggle of Vancouverans, I think that's what we'll call them. This is what this gaggle was talking about. They were talking about a 6% unemployment rate, people under 30, and that they were happy with that. That blew me away. That blew me away. Under 30, 6%. That number's outrageous. So now let's take it a step further. I said, okay, so that's what you guys are used to. Where are we at now today? And they said, like 13 or 14. I said 13 or 14 what? They said percent. What? You have 13 or 14% unemployment of people 30 and under? Guys, that is bad. That is horrifically bad. And largely when we see that sort of stuff, like that means that something systemically is wrong. But that means, and what they actually, what I found out from a lot of Torontonians, let's call them that. What I saw from that was, I said, so tell me how it works here. They said, people that come into Canada, they have people that literally are agencies that help people get on all of the social services of Canada, healthcare, etc. P.S. By the way, you don't want to have the healthcare debate with me. You just don't. I'll demolish you because I'm not reading stories. I actually lived it. I sold to Canadian hospitals. I sold projects into Canadian hospitals. I saw the problems that they were dealing with. You know what problems they were dealing with? They have people die in their waiting rooms and their EDs all the time. Fact, not fiction. Fact. They have, more often than not, they have 24-hour waits in their EDs. 24 hours. You're hard pressed to find anything in the States that's got a 24-hour wait. Hard pressed. And it's usually when there's some sort of a cataclysmic event. Usually it's hour 2, sometimes it might be 3, but it's not 24. So we don't want to have that debate because I have far too many facts that will just bury you. Experience, was there, saw it, lived it. Don't want to talk about it. So it's unbelievably crazy, the stuff that you see there. So all I would say is buckle up, kids, because you are going to see, you heard it here first, you're going to start to see massive migration. Sorry, in the way. You're going to start to see massive migration from Canada into the States. You're already seeing it. Very high paying jobs, very well paid individuals, doctors, things like that. Here's the thing to think about. In Canada, a surgeon, usually like the median wage there is, and again, this is from doctors, so I don't know what all the books say about it, but I can tell you, having spoken to doctors on staff at hospitals, 420, 480,000, kind of in that range. So under $500,000 Canadian. And then they come to the States and they're paid more. They're paid, 450 to 550, 600,000, but US. And the cost of living in the States is so much less than the cost of living there. So I walked up to a gas pump. Here's another example. Walked up to a gas pump. I look at it and I go, oh, $1.35. And then I was like, that can't be right. That can't be right. That's not right. And I was like looking for the unit of measure. It didn't really have it anywhere, which was interesting. I don't know if they just took for granted of it, but whatever. I take out, put it in, and then I find somewhere on there it says liters. And then I'm like, all right, it's like 3.7, 3.8 liters or something per gallon. So I'm like, effectively, this is $5 a gallon gas. It's $5 a gallon gas. It's $5 Canadian. Then I'm like putting together, there's no pickup trucks here. None of this stuff is there. None of this stuff is there. There aren't a bunch of guys driving around pickup trucks, quad cabs. There's a ton of Camrys. There's a ton of Hyundais. There's a ton of Teslas. Now, one of the things that they do a pretty good job with there, certainly in Montreal, is they have a bunch of hydropower. So hydropower is about as inexpensive as it gets because they're literally attached to the falls and all the different waterfalls that they have, all the stuff that they do, right, to create hydropower. They really harness the power of their water flow. Brilliant, right? And in fact, so much so that they sell a bunch back to the States. Again, fact, not fiction. But what's really interesting is their electricity rates seemingly are consistently or considerably lower than the US. Again, that's fine, but you're winning in one category and it's sort of big, but you're losing in a lot of other categories. Because guess what? Tesla's there. There aren't nearly as many Teslas there as there are in the States. I would have assumption that it has to do with the cold sink, right? The fact that you can have 300 miles in range in a warm city in the States. Up there, it gets frigid cold, and your Tesla goes down to 120 range or something. So, yeah, hydrogen fuel, yeah, absolutely, hydrogen fuel is awesome. And Wayne Smith, yeah, you're right, per liter. So, in looking at it, it just kind of blew my mind. So, it was a really, really expensive place to live in. Like I was there for 4 days, and I saw how expensive things were. What was really interesting was, obviously, with the exchange rate in my favor, like I go to hotels all the time in the States when I was traveling. You can't get out of a hotel for less than $45 for breakfast, just the way it goes. And so very often I wouldn't eat in the hotel. I would eat in the hotel if I was rushed. Otherwise, I would go off site and I would grab a breakfast sandwich or something like that somewhere else. Tim Hortons are as plentiful as Dunkin' Donuts. They are on every freaking corner. It's awesome. But the most interesting thing to me was I was sitting at the hotel and I was having breakfast and I just said, "Hey, how much is it?" Because that's the way I am. Sorry. I just asked how much it was. And they said, "Oh, it's $24. And so I was like, "Okay, thank you." And I walked out and I was kind of like, "Oh, wait, that's 24 Canadian. It's like $17, $18 US. I was like, literally went upstairs to my room because I was going to go out. And then I went back downstairs and I'm like, I'm just going to eat here. Big, huge buffet, less than $20. You can't get that anywhere in the States. Sometimes they'll include like a continental breakfast, but that's not very good. But unbelievable there. So I think it's really impressive. I loved my time. In Canada. It's still an amazing country. I had a lot of fun there. Had a lot of fun going to the card shows and spending that time with those guys. So it's been a really good time. It was a really good time, but the Canadian people are hurting, and it's due to their moronic policies that they didn't set. Their government is failing them. Trudeau failed them for years. Carney is absolutely failing them now. And so they were very appreciative of all of the Americans. I talked to some friends and I was like, "Hey, instead of going to one of the US shows, let's go to Toronto." And so we did. And so I spent a lot of time with friends up there. The Canadian people are great. They just are. They're great people. I had a lot of fun spending time with my Canadian friends. Gracious and kind, really good people. And they sadly, their parties were hijacked, and they're in the position now where it's only going to get worse. And now they're talking about lowering rates, which is going to absolutely kill inflation. So it'll be very interesting to see. But yeah, kind of crazy. So I wanted to share that with you. So the thing that, sorry, super long monologue, 19 minutes. The thing that's never happened to me before is I've never had a tenant pass away. And technically this person wasn't a tenant anymore. So, it's very, very sad. We got a call this morning, from the tenant's mom, or the ex-tenant's mom. And she just said, "Hey, I'd like to come pick some things up." And we said that sadly that time ended 2 months ago, or 2 weeks ago, not 2 months ago, 2 weeks ago. Sadly, that time ended 2 weeks ago. We extended it a week for him so he could come back and keep on getting stuff, but he was just showing up and he wasn't getting anything. This is the tenant that lost their excuse me. This is the tenant that lost their housing voucher. They lost their housing voucher about 2 months ago. We tried to work with them. We said, hey, just contact us, please. We'd love to work with you. We understand that you lost your voucher, but it doesn't mean we're going to instantly evict you, but we'd like to work with you, but we need you to reach out to us. Didn't reach out, filed a claim or filed a court appearance, showed up in the court appearance or didn't show up in the court appearance. I showed up to court. I was there. Judge calls us forward. The judge says, do you see him in the room? I said, Your Honor, I don't. And he said, all right, you're the last landlord-tenant case that we have. So if he's not here, do you have anything that you'd like to say? So he swears me in. I just say my piece. This is what happened. And he's like, well, what did you try to work out? I said, we tried to just get him to call us back. Couldn't get the guy to call us back. We couldn't get him to respond to us. He kept on filing paperwork at the courthouse, but he wouldn't respond to us, our text messages, our emails, our portal messages, nothing. Wouldn't respond to anything. But we had clean hands, right? Clean hands. We go to court and we show all these things. We say, here's all the times that we tried to contact him. Guys, I teach all of this in the course, by the way. I teach all of this, how to win and be flawless at eviction court. I teach all this. This is in the course. In fact, I think we cover it, maybe not next week, but maybe the following week, but we cover all this. This is what we teach. This is how you manage. This is how you manage and become elite managers and always win in court. So we go through our typical, steps with a judge. We get what's called a default judgment. So because he didn't show, so we get the default judgment. we go to the eviction. We finish the eviction. And then he goes and he files a motion to strike the eviction. What a joke. He never would respond to us. He kept on filing paperwork. Well, so the good thing is that in the infinite wisdom of the judge, what does the judge see? That they're trying to strike the motion, but that they've continuously petitioned the court and then not showed up. So thankfully, we have judges that have some brains in them. They're smart. And they go, no. You're not wasting any more of our time with this. You've had multiple bites at the apple. We're done here. They deny his motion. The eviction is upheld because it was finalized, but now it was upheld. But now they're in the position where, okay, eviction has been upheld. Now he is outside looking in. We give him the week that we're supposed to give him. We give him days after that. Then we go inside the unit. We realize nothing is really being moved. And we're like, okay, your last day. This is your last day. Because now you're just wasting our time. Every single day this happens, it's costing me $75 a day in carry. And it costs me on top of that what we pay our people. So I'm over $100 a day to unlock the place, lock the place up for him because I have to unlock it in the morning, unlock it at night, or I lock it up at night and I have to have my people waiting around for him. It's really, quite frankly, extremely self-absorbed and self-centered when we're the ones that are doing it. He stood us up. He was hours late. He did no shows. And it's like, I told my guy, so listen, after 20 minutes, you're gone. And then if he texts later in the day, hey, I'm able to make it over. I'll be there in 20 minutes. We would write him back. We're not dropping what we're doing and going and letting you in. You stood us up this morning. Not happening. Especially at 4:00 in the afternoon when everybody's going to be closing up shop at 5 and going home. But you do have to give reasonable access. That's unreasonable. So we finish this process. We say, okay, you're done. And we say to him, hey, listen, we've got cameras up. Do not trespass. Do not trespass. You cannot be here without our permission. So what happens the very first night? The kid trespasses. Idiot. So we send him a message. We're like, do not come there at night. You are not allowed to be there. You come and do it again and we will trespass you. Guess what happens the next day? The next day, shows up at night again, tries to break in. Now he didn't break in. He didn't make it in. So it wasn't breaking and entering, but it was, criminal trespass as well as destruction of property. So find out that he broke the neighbor's fence. He ends up in court anyway for that thing. And then when the cops are there, they actually know that he's going to be there. So they show up and they arrest him for the criminal trespass. So all of this guy's world is unraveling. We're just like, please stop. We're begging him. Please stop. We want to help you, but you're making this impossible. You just need to play by the rules. So he had lost his voucher. The voucher, and this is one of the things I absolutely loathe and hate about Section 8, is that they wouldn't tell us. They wouldn't tell us why. I don't think that's right. I don't think that's right. I don't think that's fair. They would not tell us why he lost his voucher. That's not right. if we are affording somebody housing and then all of a sudden you yank their funding, which they obviously can't live without, because if they could, why were they getting a voucher? It was just one of those things. Well, coming to find out, in Airborne, you're heading down the right path. So then we reach our time. He's exhausted his time, and we have to go in and we have to do a clean out. So we have a crew that goes in, does a clean out. They go in there, and basically the idea is we bag everything so we can just basically haul it out and dump it in our portable dumpster. When I say portable dumpster, it's a 15-yard dumpster on wheels. That was one of my favorite things I ever bought. And I don't know how we live without it. So we do all this, and sure enough, come across drugs. Yeah, came across drugs, and I was like, okay, it all makes sense now. We want to believe the best about everybody. We don't want to believe that we have drug addicts, but these were all inherited tenants. They wouldn't have ever in a million years passed my screening process, because we kind of relook at all of them when we buy the building. And I've got bad news. Yeah, you guessed it. None of them passed. Not one. Credit was horrific. Just no income. Yes, they're on Section 8, but you still have to have some income. So it was just really bad. So anyway, we find the drugs, and hey guys, we're law-abiding citizens. We love the cops. Obviously I have a huge advantage. I got, Millennial Mike, who's a good buddy of mine. I call him up and I just go, hey, what do I do with something like this? He goes, just call the cops. They'll take care of it. He goes, you want to make sure you're careful. And I was like, yeah, I don't want any of my people getting hurt. Because one of the things that we require when we actually do a clean out is we require a mask just in case. So yeah, so I agree with you 100%, Airborne. And so we're doing everything we can to not have this guy continue to make bad decisions. So admittedly, he came back a couple more times. We did not trespass him just because I was like, my hope was, it was like, maybe if you get trespassed, maybe they'll bring you into jail, but I don't know who it was, but somebody bonded him out. And I was like, well, there goes that plan. Like, if you're going to have somebody there just basically bond you out, like, what sense does this make? Like, this just makes no sense. So we just needed to be able to cut the cord. So last week we basically cut the cord and we just said, hey, listen, we're done. You're not picking up anything else. Everything that we see there basically is trash. But what we do is when we go through stuff, trying to clean stuff up, even if they're not taking care of their stuff, we want to make sure that if they have personal pictures or affects or things like that, things that it's like, if we see an old blanket, if we see, old stuffed animals or things like that, we always take that stuff and we set it aside and we put it in a tote. The reason we obviously put it in a tote is because we need to make sure that anything like that might be longer term, we know they're going to be really sad if they don't get that back. So we always try and take a tote, fill it up, make sure that they have stuff that might mean something more to them over time. Josh, I would tell him that, Josh, but I think you guys are all chalked up there. And it's going to be a little tough to do in his condition. And so we got the call this morning from his mom, and his mom told us that he'd passed. So that was the first time I've ever had this happen. It was bad news. I felt bad because, we did everything we possibly could. I mean, we tried to work with him for a payment plan. We tried to get him to some help, get him a program. We didn't even know that he was an addict. We didn't even know. But just the behavior that we were seeing, like we would, talk to the police, or we would talk to a caseworker at the police and just say, is there anything that we can do? And there was just nothing we could do. There was nothing we could do. And one of the things that we do is when we talk to these tenants, like his mom had gotten involved in in the beginning of the eviction, or when he was actually out, when he was evicted. Hey, Anna Kay, good to see you. We asked her, we said, well, hey, we're happy to help. And so you can take this stuff and bring it on to, bring it to your house. And she goes, oh no, he is not moving in with me. Oof. Okay. Like, we're happy to help facilitate something. Is there anything that we can do to help? And she's like, it's not coming in with me. And so we're asking him, we're like, where are you going to put your stuff? Like, don't know. It wasn't cold here yet. It's going to be cold here this week, but it was sad. It was sad getting that call from the mom. The good thing was, we were able to give his mom a bunch of pictures that he had. Say that we were sorry for her loss. Cause it's human life. But we look at it and we just say, we had no options. He had no options. He was clearly addicted, clearly had a drug problem. It's sad. It's just sad. Sad that a life goes away and everybody can make an impact. And, I don't know that person made a positive impact. It was bad. It was bad. So I share that with you to just say, go above and beyond, be better as a landlord, right? Like he's cost me thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. He caused me hours and hours and hours of inconvenience. I had to cut one of my trips short to come back to go to court for him to not show up. The level of annoyance was high. That doesn't mean that anybody should die or pass. So I think it's really sad that it happened. I'm sad that his journey is over. But sadly it is what it is what it is. It happened. So I think that it is important, that as landlords, there's not a lot that we can control in that regard. We still have to hold people accountable and responsible, but recognize that it's people first. And, we did everything we could to try to help him. And it just didn't work, and he wouldn't respond and he wouldn't engage. So sadly, that's where we end up. So I would tell you that in any case, what you should always do when you're cleaning out a unit from an eviction, take personal affects, personal pictures. Like I said, unique old stuffed animals, blankets, something that looks like it's important. Just set it aside. 1 or 2 totes, 1 or 2 27-gallon totes ain't going to kill you. Leave it on location, put it in the basement, put it in the garage, put it in the bottom, in a closet until the work is done there. Do something like that. We try and be better as landlords. So do things like that. And people do, Josh, you're exactly right. People do make their own choices. It's just, we can still be great landlords and hold people accountable. But at the same time too, when it comes to doing the emptying out, when it comes to clearing the space, let's try and do the right thing as far as we can for what that's worth. But that's, we had gone through 33 and out. No, still 31 and 0. Yeah, 31 and 0. And I have, and then next, 3 weeks from now. Yeah, 31 and 0. 3 weeks from now, I got another appearance, but it's a small claims case, and looking forward to that one. So yeah, like I said, it's my only advice to you is be good people when you're a good landlord, and usually they're one and the same. We let it go on too long. We tried to help for too long. But at the end of the day, I'm okay losing the money that we lost. And having gone out of our way to do the right thing, because being able to pass that package that we put together, that 27-gallon tote, being able to pass that on to his mom, in her time of loss, was big for us. It was big for her, but it was big for us because it was big for her. So we try and rip out, we try and, take care of and put stuff together and make sure that we're leaving it better than we got it. Okay. That said, we got a ton of stuff that we got to get to. Let's roll, baby. All right. We're going to do a bunch of hellos and we're going to rip through this thing. Let's see. Red Snap, Jason Calisabetta. Hi guys. Good evening, Matt. Carolyn and Jim Stewart here. Hi guys. What do you think about having a lumberjack meetup here in New Hampshire? When is the next boot camp? Next boot camp started 2 weeks ago. The next one after that's going to be sometime, I think, in January or February. And then we won't do one for the summertime, and I'll consider whether or not I'll come back and do it in the fall. But yeah, there is one that's right now. We've done 2 sessions We still have 10 sessions left. And there is space. I think we have 13 people, so we allow it to get up to 15. We had a couple people last minute take themselves out of it just because they couldn't make the timing work, which is fine. I understand. And then they'll attend the next one. Mikey, hello. Jay, good to see you, sir. Wayne, good to see you. Hey, Jeremy Kirkwood, it's been a while. Good to see you. Kyle Dorn, the retired man on 6 bones a month. I love it. Josh, good to see you, friend. HOA Press, a 50-year mortgage is a bad idea. HOA Press, I see both sides of it. I like it because from an investor perspective, it can make any deal work. I don't in particularly like it because I wouldn't put any of that type of debt on one of my assets. I'd probably not put one of those deals on my assets. But that's just me. Joe Josh, good evening. Dion, what's up, buddy? It was I watched your your live stream was awesome. And he's killing it with AI filters. I mean, Dion was handsome before, but now he's just downright beautiful. Downright beautiful. Nicole Weigel, good to see you. Hyder, good to see you. Dimitri, wow, very interesting. So U.S. real estate is still affordable and could certainly get more expensive like Canada's. Yeah, Dimitri, I agree with that. Many people that say that it's unaffordable just don't understand affordability metrics. If I were buying a single family home right now, yeah, it's pretty frothy, pretty expensive, but investment properties, they show return on capital. And so I'm still finding deals. I still find deals that are double-digit returns after expenses. I still find those. Income tax in Canada is high. It's very high. So not only do they make 40% less, but a person making $80,000 in Canada pays about 40% in taxes. In the US, they pay about 27%. What's most interesting is all the other taxes that they have. They have VAT tax, water tax, fuel tax. They've got a ton more tax, province tax, city tax. They have a ton of taxes on top of it. Like legitimately, you're taking it close to 50% at 80. Dion would do 1,000-year mortgages. We know. I like 1,000. That would be kind of cool. Actually, I'd love to see that amortization. Double tap the screen to like the video. Thank you, Hyder. Yes, please double tap the screen. Millennial Mike, don't forget to tip your lumberjack with a like for the algorithm. Yes, a like is all I would ever ask. Martin Properties, done. Thank you, sir. Hyder, good stuff. Demetris, good to see you, pal. Hope you're doing well. Alex Sader, Aeropro Lops from Germany here. Okay. Oh, yeah, we talked about this rate of housing mortgage in America. Yeah, your high 5s you can buy it into, your low 6s. Martin Properties on a treadmill going for 10 miles. Oh my goodness. I walked 10 miles during that Toronto show, but that was 2 days. Landlord Odyssey, good to see you. Ready on? How you doing, pal? Hope you're ready for winter. Wayne Smith, toggle the thumbs up for this one. I appreciate that. Thank you very much, Wayne. Millennial Mike with the super chat to help you afford WeTransfer because Google Drive is trash. Also, will you be converting any current loans to 50 years? I will future cash out refis if I can. We'll certainly look at the math. I don't think so, though. In all honesty, I don't think we will. If I refi out into the 50, it gives me a lower payment, but that increases my income and means I have more taxes to pay. So probably not. And on most of that stuff that I own, would I do it on a higher interest rate mortgage? Maybe potentially, but again, usually the rate coincides with the term. So if you've got, 15-year, the rate is lower. A 30-year, the rate is higher than a 15, and 20s are higher than 15s, but lower than 30s. And so it depends on what the rate is on the 50-year. If the rate is the same as the 30-year, well, then we can maybe have a conversation. But if you look at the first 20 years of a 50-year mortgage, you're only paying down the balance of your mortgage, the actual principal of your mortgage, like 15% in 20 years. That's not very good. So for me, 50-year debt, probably not. I'm locked in at, for 85% of my portfolio, I'm locked in at 4% or less. I'm going to keep that nice cheap debt because I don't see that cheap a debt coming around anytime soon. Maybe it does, but if you follow the old axiom of, when do I refinance debt, it'd probably need to be at 3.5. Am I ever going to see 3.5? I doubt it, especially on those types of assets. So probably not. I'm probably in those mortgages for life, but we're still seeing rental appreciation, or we did until very recently. We were still seeing up rates, but if anybody's moving out of a unit from that they rented 2 or 3 years ago, it's up from then. And so we're still seeing the appreciation in rents. And so we have some tenants that are leaving after 5 and 7 and 10 years. Life changes for them. And so those, we've raised them every couple, 2-3 years, but they're still nowhere near market. We had one that was 1,200 when that tenant moved out, and that was raised from 900. When that tenant moved out, we found that we were able to go to 1,895 in the market. We shouldn't have been that far off. That was a bad thing. That was bad. We were that far off. So yeah, I mean, I think you can sit there and try to make the case. For me, my belief, my preference is, in the first 7 years of a mortgage, you're going to pay down about 10% of the principal. I'm not really looking for principal pay down. Principal pay down is nice, but it's not by any stretch the factor. The real factor is the fixed rate debt and the fact that rents raise over a 10-year period. Some say they double every 10 years. That's not what my experience has been, but my experience has been they go up like 50% or 60% in 10 years, which means that in a 20-year period that they will more than double. And then you might have an event like we had, with COVID. You might have that effect. And then, then you see like a 30 or 40% appreciation. Now, here's the thing. We saw 30 and 40% appreciation in rents in a couple 2-3 year span. And now I feel like we're kind of reaching equilibrium and we're kind of flat, maybe down in some, up in some others, depending on the asset. But in looking at that, or as we are evaluating that, I just kind of look at it and I go, yeah, I mean, the amount that we're making on the properties is significant and it continues to increase. And so I'd rather pay off that debt faster with that higher payment. And then I can also make 2 extra payments a year. If I make 2 extra payments a year on any asset, we have some that we're doing that on because it has expensive debt. We're not hammering down debt on 4%. We do have some mortgages, like I said, 85% is 4% or less. We do have some mortgages, stuff that we've acquired in the last few years that is, that's at 6.5, 7.5, I think is the highest that we have on anything. 7.62, something like that is the highest we have on anything. That will make 2 extra payments to a year because that's going to shorten the mortgage to 21 years or 20 years, 10 months. If you do 2 extra payments a year. So as we do those 2 extra payments a year and continue to stay up top of it and make sure it's noted that it's going towards the principal of the loan, that will be something that will continue to pay down. So that payment stays the same, but the number of payments that you have to make go down because, as we know, the first 7 to 10 years are interest heavy. Wayne Smith, all-nighter. My favorite blue wrench. Yeah, exactly. The barn's all down. A little still some sorting palletized, getting inside, polished tire, bottom for the winter. Love that. Congrats on that major project, buddy. Our escape to the rat race. Hello, gang. Hello, sir. SK, how are you, Matt? I'm good. I'm trying to refi my rental with a broker who is doing DSCR loan. He says fee is 1%. That's about right. I see 1 and 2 of loan origination fee for him, and the closing cost will be 2% of the house value, 75% loan to value on 1 million. Typical. Yeah, those are all typical terms. Yep. Those are typical. If you ever want to run numbers past, I found that Convoy was really honest. They tell you, yeah, we can match something like that, or no, we can't do anything like that. So if you ever want to really find out, try and get somebody else, just give them the numbers and say, honestly, if you guys can beat this, I'll consider moving it to you. If you can't, I understand. HOA Prez, I could see unemployment in the Silicon Valley going above 10%. I agree with you. I agree. It's the shit show that I thought it would be. Wayne Smith, I hope we go straight to snow. Yeah, preach, man. It's cold here this week now. It's cold, mate. Yeah, it's cold. SK, the fees on a non-QM loan, DSCR here, typically 3% of the loan amount, looks much higher than conventional loan. Any way to reduce the cost? So you can ask them that. The 1%, yes. The closing of 2% seems, I think that's high. I think that part's the part that's high, the 2% close. The 1% origination, yes, but the 2% on the house value, I think that might have been 1% as well on the deal that I did with Convoy, but I'd have to double check. All nighter, Imperial Metric. Yeah, you nailed it, buddy. Jacek, hello everyone from still amazing New Jersey. Well done, Jacek. HOA price. Silicon Valley tech companies have frozen tech hiring for the most part. Yeah, most of them are frozen tech, but they're also doing layoffs. Like they're getting ready. They're going to do a massive layoff around Christmas time. I think it's going to get nasty. Ned talks. Rich people from all over the world come to the U.S. for medical care for a reason. Ned, you're exactly right. So the reason why you don't want to have the healthcare debate with me is because I worked in healthcare for 17 years. 17. And I worked on the clinical side, which means doctors and nurses. And I worked on the administrative side with IT and hospital administrators. I worked on both sides of the hospital. We were always in there in a cost-cutting measure to try and find ways to do more with less because they wanted to put more money into clinical things than they did into the business of the hospital. Makes sense, right? We always want the best care. However, that's why we always have a nightmare when something goes to billing and then billing and insurance, and then it becomes an absolute shit show. But spent 17 years in that market. So that's why you don't want to have the healthcare debate with me, because I'll shred you. Because I actually know what it looks like. I know the reality. I know how it works. I know how the businesses are run because it is to be a business. They got to keep the lights on. I worked with some of the largest companies and the largest hospitals in the world. Fathom this for just a second. Some of the hospitals that I work with, they have something called revenue cycle. A revenue cycle is essentially the cycle in which revenue enters, which it's, patient and then billing and right down through the end, insurance payment. And then, then the cycle is closed when payment is made. I know hospitals that bill out $1 billion per month. Those are the problems that I was working to fix. Not $1 million in a month, $1 billion with a B, $1 billion in a month. Yeah. Yep. I've helped roll out technology to 100 plus hospital systems, 100 plus hospitals in the system. So yeah, we don't want to have the healthcare conversation because I know what the facts are. I lived it. I saw the reports. I worked with CEOs and CFOs and CNOs and CMIOs and CMOs. And so what all of those are. Chief medical officer, basically in charge of the doctors, chief nursing officer, basically in charge of the nurses, chief medical information officer, chief financial officer, chief executive officer. What else? I mean, all the C's. CMO, chief marketing officer. Why do you need to market a hospital? Because very often they make a lot of money in specific lines of business because hospitals have lines of business. So yeah, I spent 18 years doing that. Lauren Semaniego, good to see you. Hyder, I say hydropower, like a superhero before I jump in the water to go swimming. That sounds wonderful. Great motivator to diet. Yeah. Millennial Mike, Laura, haven't seen you in a long time. SK, is it worth it to cash out refi 2 properties and refi 1 property to reduce rates to save $3,700 a month combined after everything? The cost is 3%, $72K to do it. Break even in 2 years. Is it worth it? Yeah, I mean, I think it depends on what's happening with your business. And here's the reason I say that. That $72,000 that it's going to quote unquote cost you. The issue is, does that $72,000 perform better elsewhere? And are rates going to trend down? Depends on you ask, right? And so that's where the timing thing comes more into play. I think rates are going to be slow, but I think they'll continue to drop. I think bank margins will continue to drop. I think largely what we have to be concerned about is a high unemployment rate. And I think that when we start to see unemployment really get sticky and as far as, continue to have those numbers increase, that's when the Fed will start pushing, because they have their mandate is, low inflation, but their mandate is jobs. That's their mandate. They're supposed to keep that job economy running. And that's what I see coming. But again, that's just a guess. That's just a guess. Like one stroke of a pen of one policy can change all of that. So what you really have to do is evaluate your business and say, am I better off having $72,000 in pocket right now today so I can make a move and do another deal? Or am I better off making that investment now and then watching, essentially accumulating that? Because if you think you're going to move in a year on some deals and that's where you think the market opportunity is, then it's $36,000 because you'll have recovered it by then. So that's where there's no hard way to say, yeah, absolutely do it. It's much more, what do you plan for the business? If your plan is expansion of the business, you're going to need cash to do the buy down, or you're going to need cash to do the down payment. And the rate that you have existing, I mean, again, if you can, ideally you do both. But that's really comes down to where you have to really understand what your goal and where you're taking your business. Millennial Mike says, SK, I like it personally. How much cash are you getting? 5 years step down prepay. So stuck with all 3 loans for 5 years to avoid prepay. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. That's the thing with DSCRs is they all prepay to them. Here's the thing I would consider there. And this is just the other piece that you have to calculate for is if rates go down another point or another point and a half in the next 5 years, you're not going to be a real refi out of those deals. That's the one place they really get you a DSCR and it's the same with a lot of commercial loans. I usually negotiate instead of a 5-4-3-2-1, which is a 5% penalty year 1, a 4% penalty year 2, a 3% penalty year 3, a 2% year penalty year 4, and a 1% penalty year 5. Most oftentimes banks will waive that last year, but that's the prepayment penalty. So let's say it's $1 million loan. That means in year 1, you're going to have to pay $50,000 to get out of that loan to refi it. In year 2, you'd have to pay $40,000. In year 3, you have to pay $30,000. In year 2, you have to pay $20,000. So it's basically a percentage. But if you're having $1 million deal, that's what you're looking at. Now, if the rates go from, you're at 6 probably, and they go down to 5, well, you're still stuck at that higher rate. You can't refi out, and now you're just chasing debt, right? It's like almost like a lease rollover. So that's where, for me right now, I think that, what's the higher likelihood in the next year? Are rates higher or lower? I think they're lower in the next year. That's just my personal opinion. But again, I will go through the refinance process, but for me, it's a pain in the ass because I got 53 freaking billings. And so we're not going to redo all of them, 85% of those. So, like 40 something of those, the mortgages are 4% or below. We're not touching those. So we have maybe 6 or 8 mortgages that are in play. But like I said, it just kind of is what it is. We'll kind of watch it and monitor it, but there's no hard and fast answer. So it's not an avoidance thing. I just want to give you the things that you should be thinking of, because again, you get into a DSCR that's a 5-4-3-2-1. I try and negotiate that to a 3-2-1. That way it's 3 years. Some companies will do that. Some won't. But that's where you have to try and figure out what is the next step? What is your next plan? Where's the next place that you're trying to go? And if you need cash, then the last thing that you want is to use cash up for refi. If it's that you don't need cash, right? If the issue is not cash and the issue is I need more income coming in on the bottom line, then in that case, it's an investment worth making. And you've done the math of the 2-year return. For me, a 2-year return is absolutely a reason to do it. But again, what is my goal for the next 2 years? Where do I want to take this thing? Article 11 of the Articles of Confederation explicitly invited Canada to join the United States as a state. The article stated that Canada acceding to this confederation and joining. Yeah, it's really interesting. I mean, I think that there's going to be a lot of Canadians that move here. I don't think there's going to be, I don't know that it's going to become a state. Julie Anderson, why doesn't the algorithm like you? And how do we fix that? I don't know. Julie, I wish I knew. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe because I only do this once a week, but we're changing that. We're going to bring to you guys an amazing series where I've spent a lot of time interviewing a lot of amazing people. And I'm really excited to bring that to you. So you'll stay tuned for that. That's gonna be my Christmas gift to you guys. But yeah, Julie, great question. Wish I knew. Let's see. Wayne Smith, joining in the measure of the United States shall be admitted into and entitled to all the advantage of this union. Yeah, man, that would be awesome. What's really funny is, and not in a mean way, just in a factual way, most of the resources come from Alberta. So Calgary and Edmonton, amazing hockey cities. And yeah, I'm a dork. I make everything about hockey, whatever. You don't like it, whatever. See, that's Chile. That's why I lose. But if you took Alberta out of that equation and made them the 51st state, the rest of Canada is in deep, deep trouble. Deep trouble. Like Alberta does a ton of their food and farming. It does a ton of their oil. Like, yeah, it'd be scary stuff. SK City qualified my ADU for amnesty program, but needs me to update ADU for habitability. Yep, electrical work panel, baseboard heaters, and egress can do. They need architectural drawings. Can I draw myself? No, you cannot. But SK, Dan's, guys, here's a tip. This is an amazing story. Dan's plans on Fiverr, let him know Lumberjack Landlord sent you. Dan's plans on Fiverr. He does amazing plans that most, not all, but most cities will take his plans and you can use them for your project. Not all. The difference is architectural plans can be $3,000 to $5,000 or more, depending on how involved they get. Dan's plans is like $100. I can tell you honestly, I've used Dan's plans. I've paid the $100 and I've gotten plans that the city has let me use. So I would start with that. Worst case is you're at $100. Best case is they let you use them. Medium case is you use those to hand off to the architect and you get a bunch of their work done and say, what if I could hand you basically a schematic and then you just add your stuff to it and then stamp it? Could we do anything on the price? Don't tell them that you paid the $100, but here's what I can tell you. I've done that. I've had them use those plans, given them the raw drawing, then had them finish it and added what they needed to add. And it saved me like $800. So the $100 was $100 well spent. Hopefully that helps. Airborne 2, he needs a whiskey. I don't drink. Thank you for the offer. I'm always kind in my rejection of booze. Dear heavens. Oh, so popular. Wayne Smith, just saying, if the U.S. included Canada, we would be in need of nothing from the rest of the world. It's very true. The challenge, there would be a lot of challenges with that. It would be a challenging thing to do. And, frankly speaking, okay, I'm going to get rude. Sorry. And Julie, another reason why the YouTube algorithm hates me. The challenge that you're going to have is very many people that want to make that decision. The challenge that you have is that they voted Carney in. I don't want to say you get what you're voted for, but you kind of get what you voted for. You voted Carney in and he's making it even more of a shit show. I'm not sure I want those people having voting rights in the States. Laura Semeniego, thanks so much for checking on me. I'm doing good on a beautiful baby. Yes, happy to see you too. Yeah, he did. Mike did have a beautiful baby. Well, his better half had a baby. Anna K, the poor mom. Yes. SK, Millennial Mike savings. So now it's minus $1,800 a month after refi of all three properties. It'll be plus $1,900 a month cash flow. So net $3,700 a month savings. Got it. Joshua M. Matt, can you speak a bit about how you broke into sales and how you progressed through that career? I understand you did not graduate high school, but went on to become very successful in sales. You're the man. Thank you, Joshua. Thank you so much. So here's the abridged version, kind of 60 seconds or less. I'm a ninth grade dropout. Proud to be. Had many, many, many different jobs. And it wasn't because I got fired. It was because I liked a challenge. I liked learning. Sound familiar? And so then got to the point where I was 18. I was working in a video store. I was living on my own. I was making $5.25 an hour. And no, this wasn't in 1902. This was in 1996, 96. That was 96, 97. I was making $5.25 an hour. I was making $167 a week after taxes. Oh, goodness. Yeah, I got a dinner bill. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe like a month ago. Got a dinner bill. And I was like, it was $167 and it made me laugh. And Ashley goes, why are you laughing? I go, that's my wife. This is Mrs. Lumberjack. Well, I'm laughing because we just had a dinner that's as much money as I used to make in an entire week working. So yeah, so life is good. But what I would tell you is start at the bottom. If you're trying to get into sales, work in a telemarketing department, because there's a lot of things that they teach you in there the most important thing is field reps too often spend too much time in the field. Inside reps spend no time in the field. They only spend time in the office. Those are amazing skills to create. But when you're a telemarketer, you get very good at, there's many skills that companies train you and they get very good at. The one way that you become wealthy is by doing what I did, which was I had all of the skills of an inside person and a telemarketer, and I had all of the skills of a field person. So that way I was very smart with how I set up my work. It wasn't always about being in the field. It wasn't always about being in the office. It was always about using my time in the office to set myself up for great success in the field. And that's where I just absolutely crushed it. So most years I was 150 to 250% of my quota. Most years in my career, it was almost always good for top person in the country. In some cases, when I worked for global organizations, it was top in the world. The best year I ever had, I did 547% of my quota. 547%. They've never seen anybody eclipse 300 before. I did 547%. And I made a ton of money as a 23-year-old kid, but it's because I worked and I grinded and I hustled and I was smart about my work. So break in anywhere, look and see who the top sales guys are, but also look and see why they're the top sales guys. Sometimes the top sales guys in a car organization are because they actually get fleet sales. Well, that doesn't really count. They're not out there grinding and selling. Just learn from them how they got the fleet sale. That's what you need to learn. Usually it's because the owner passes it off to a puppy, to their favorite. But yeah, I've sold pretty much everything. But then when I got into software, that's when the real money matters. I remember being 21 years old and getting a paycheck for my first full month in sales. My paycheck was $14,000. That was more than I'd made the entire year in 1 month. And I was hooked. It's like, man, not only am I good at this, but holy crap, it pays a lot of money. And that wasn't even that much money. All-nighter. Mikey of San Diego Fish and Sips has been lost at sea since Tuesday off the Mexican coast. His skiff was found, but not him. This is the third night. Prayers for Mikey. I agree with you, man. Yeah, that's sad. That's sad. Hopefully, hopefully we're looking for a miracle. Oh, God, we need a miracle. Ned Talks recently, maybe a month or so ago, had a tenant pass away from drinking himself to death. Took him 5 years to do it, with us just trying to help him and be nice whenever we saw him, but to no avail. Yeah, that's sad, man. That's brutal. Jeremy Kirkwood ripped out knob and tube today from a tenant basement for the last week, and he is going through chemo. Another house I bought, a new fridge and cleaned air ducts after a hospice got called in there. Yeah, there are constructive ways to help every day. That's exactly right. Jeremy Kirkwood, I know you're raising good kids, my friend, and you're raising an army of them. We need guys like you, my man. Charles McCune, if you don't hold people accountable, you help feed their problems. That's exactly right. You become an enabler. Martin Properties, I'm about to hit 5 miles on the treadmill. Good, man. And you get to listen to me in the process, and you're typing. That's a skill. California has a $1 trillion unfunded pension liability. Yeah. Gavin Newsom, what a piece of crap. That guy's just such garbage. Alex, the accidental investor. Good to see you, buddy. It was good to meet you out in Vegas. I hope you're doing great. Is there a difference between the course and the boot camp? Are they priced differently, and is the course time limited? The course time is not limited currently. They are priced the same. There is a difference. There's the course, which is $995. There's a boot camp, which is $995. You can get, you have to get the course in order to get in the boot camp, because we want to make sure that you're able to speak the same languages, speak the same language with us and your classmates. But yeah, that's what the offering is. You guys can check out the syllabus. Just go to lumberjacklandlord.com and you can watch me do the syllabus and you can see exactly what's in there. I don't want to hide anything from you, but what I can tell you is the course is the course. We usually cover that for the first 15, 20 minutes of the boot camp, answer any questions you have, further drill into strategy. But then the next 2 to 2.5 hours, we spend talking about what you're going through. That's one of the cool things about that course is it lets me limit it to 15 people. That's why we do. And so as an example, we covered the course from like 8 to 8:20, 8:25 this week. And then we went until almost 11 o'clock at night, just answering your guys' questions. And that's where I like to, that's one of my favorite things to do. Ike Hobbs, what's up from Kansas? What's up, Ike? Good to see you, pal. Good to see you. Larry Bird, lumberjack landlord in the house. That is true. Wealth building journey, catching up on chipmunk speed 3x. I mean, Chester's just a super busy dude nowadays. HOA price, California thinking about raising the highest marginal income tax from 13 to 20%. Sounds right. We'll see. Hey, you know what? They keep on voting, Gavin and Nancy in and people like that, and they're all very high pro taxes. I think they should do it. I think they should do it and see how that works for them. And we're seeing how neutered Mamdani is in New York already, and we're only 5 days in, which is kind of funny. HOA price. Yep. Sounds like mass exodus coming from California is coming. Yeah, there continues to be people leaving California. And it's funny because some people are like, oh, we wish we never left and we go back. And that's fine. But those aren't any of the big money people. Like they're moving to Florida. They're moving to Texas. I'm going to scroll down for just a quick second. I'm going to see where I am right here. I'm going to do this right here. There's more trolls in these kinds. Maybe you'll learn something. You're doing full screen type live, bro. There's more trolls in these kinds. Yeah, maybe. It's actually a new feature. It's actually a new feature from StreamYard. So we're trying to see how it goes. I'm going to scroll down because I want to see your answers. Now you guys can hit me up with your answers. Thanks so much for posting the link for the course. I want to see your guys' answers. What state do you think has had created the most financial sector related jobs in the last couple years? Who do you think, what state? And you guys can kick it in there and then I'll put your name up on screen if you get it right. Or the first one to get it right. But what state has created the most financial sector jobs in the last couple of years? Damn. Freaking show off. Right out of the gate. Chester, you nailed it. Damn, so good. I thought that was going to stump a lot of you. Yeah. Okay, good. I'm seeing a lot. Thank God. I don't feel so bad now. Yeah. I mean, Chester banged it. Nicely done. Guys, think about that. So here's one of the really interesting things. Hartford used to be the insurance capital of the world. It then became no longer. It became Des Moines, Iowa. Des Moines, Iowa became the capital, the center of insurance in the world. And now it's not New York. So all of these really expensive states, high tax burden, high income earners, most of these businesses have moved. They can move. There's proof they've moved. But now you have more financial sector jobs being created in Texas? What are you joking? Texas? But that's the numbers, guys. Texas. It's Texas. Texas, number one in financial sector jobs. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Yeah, it's unbelievable. Yeah, they do. And if you guys don't like this format, let me know. Because I can't see it on the other side. So, oh crap, what I did to do that. Oh, chipmunk speed. Hope to be running at that age. Does anyone know where my comment went? Oh, I don't. I answered your comment. Let me know if you didn't get the answer, my boy, my dude. Alex Accidental Investor. Santa Clara sales tax is now 10%. What the crap? That's crazy. Angel R, what's up, my man? Would you pull equity HELOC refi to do a BRRRR? Or keep saving and buy conventionally? I've got one paid off and equity in the other two. For me, yeah, I mean, when you're building the business, you lever assets. The only thing that you ever want to do is it has to be what's called the sleep well at night method. Corby Carter taught me this. One of our great alumnus from the course. But yeah, Corby is fantastic, but he called it the sleep well at night, SWAN method. So what you want to do is you want to kind of figure out what your risk tolerance is. If you're going to bed and your heart's always palpitating, that's not it. That's too high. If you're going to bed and you're just like I'm doing another project, I feel fulfilled. This is awesome. So I absolutely I would lever assets. I didn't want to give it over my skis. I never wanted to be more than 70% LTV. I always wanted to make sure that the property still cash flowed at least 10 or 20%. I think it was pretty consistently 20%. I just say 10 now because 20 might be unrealistic for some people. But that's what I would do. And so I would use pre-existing assets to create cash to then go buy more stuff. But it was always with the keeping in mind, hey, should I be doing this, or should I be, or should I be redoing an asset? Should I be redoing an asset to get higher rents? So yeah, I think it's not by any means too far to stretch. I don't hate the idea. Demetrius, Alex, there are two different lives. One is vertical and the other one is horizontal. Oh, very cool. And then they both filter into here. That's cool. It's interesting because some people, that's why the numbers must be higher. Very interesting. Because I got two different streams going in. Yeah. So there's a horizontal stream and there's a vertical stream, and it streams at the same time. It's very interesting. HOA price, California just revoked 17,000 commercial driver's licenses. I heard that, but holy cow, like I'm seeing the stories, I can only imagine Diaz getting a ton of that news, but holy cow, the amount of illegals with these licenses and the amount of dangerous stuff that they do. Like when you get in an accident with one of those things, forget about the driver. How many people are you killing in other cars? Like that's a scary thing. Angel R, I've got one property paid off, 290K value, and about 100K in equity in the other two, but I don't want to lose my low 4% rate, and one loan is in the high sixes. What would you do in my exact position? Oh, tough to say. Without all of the data, but just based on that very limited, something high sixes, I probably refi that out and try and get it to like a 70 or 80% loan to value. And then I'm using that money probably. I wouldn't touch any of the other lower debt. If you decide to put it on one of the other debts, yeah, a HELOC's the way to go. The problem is you'll get an expensive HELOC because it's on an investment property. If it's your primary, you can get a cheaper HELOC. The challenge with HELOCs, and this is a really important lesson that you guys all can learn. You guys always show up to the Lumberjack Landlord for financial gold. But one of the things to learn about is a mortgage on a balance sheet. Let's say it's a $500,000 mortgage. Let's just say that's it. $500,000 mortgage on a balance sheet and a $500,000 equity loan on the balance sheet. Here's what's really funny. Do you know that they look exactly the same? If they look exactly the same, here's why. It's both $500,000, but this one, the $500,000 is out, but it's being paid. It's what's called a performing loan. This one at $500,000, the money might not be out, but when it starts getting pulled out, then it's performing. The issue is if the money's not pulled out, it still has to have that $500,000 hold on the balance sheet. That's why they charge you more money on the interest of these loans. The issue is that when financial calamity comes or when the market shifts, just like Wells Fargo, they eliminate these, because if I have to have $1 billion on my books for loans that aren't being utilized and for loans that don't have cash coming in on them, I'm going to wipe that out, because then I can take the $1 billion that I have over here, I can move it over here to mortgages. And now these mortgages, anytime I give out a mortgage, that's going to perform. That's going to be making payments. People are making payments day one on those loans. On the home equity lines, they don't. So that's one of the biggest difference. That's what it looks like on a balance sheet. And that's why very often, that's why in 2008, that's how so many people got in trouble. A bunch of people had equity lines on properties, investment and primaries. And then all of a sudden the banks just went, nope, we're shutting it off. Now I had one that was at $75,000 and I had $59,000 around it. I was going to write my last check for 15 grand to pay off all my contractors. I did. And then I get the note. I get a message from a contractor saying, hey, your check bounced. I'm like, that's impossible. I've got $15,000 left in the account. Went online, checked it. Guess what? They closed my account. I just hadn't gotten the letter yet. They removed the existing $15,000 or 15 and change in credit that I had. That blew up my business. That's how I almost went bankrupt, because I had to find a way. I was like quick moving and I had to like start reaching out to people and like, hey, I need to get loans, and doing all of that work because they'd shut me off. And it was like, and then I had to basically get in a position where I then had to repay. That killed me. That killed me for quite some time. Andy, hey, Matt, can you explain the potpourri class choice part of the course and how that works? Sure, Andy, I can. So the potpourri part of the class in the course is we cover what the group votes on. So there might be a certain thing that's going on then. There might be a certain part of the market. There might be like, somebody wants to learn a lot more about seller financing in that. We don't include everything under the sun in the course because we want it to be manageable and we want it to be impactful. We know that the core lessons that we teach you in those 11 lessons, we know that's everything that you need to know to manage your business and build your business and become elite. However, we always want to leave extra room. So if there's something going on in the market, something new, whatever, we actually talk to the class week 11 and say, hey, what do you guys think you want to do? And we'll take a poll. And at the end of the class, we'll figure out what people want, what the people are that want to learn about the most. And then the next week, I just spend dedicated talking about that topic. So that's what it is. That's what the potpourri is. I did find your comment. Let me know, Alex. Yes. So I did answer that. Let me know. I did answer that later on. Yes. I'm starting to get caught up. I'm still a half an hour lagging. I went too long with my monologue. Sarah Vanning, good to see you, sir. Good to see you. HOA Prez. A homeowner had a torn off roof and there was an ice raid taking all the roofers. Oh, interesting. We had a big rainstorm today and the homeowner didn't have a roof. Oh, it sucks. That's too bad. Yeah. Yes. Okay, cool. All right, we got all that. Why does it seem like I'm getting half the chat with so the reason that you're getting half the chat is because some of the chat is coming in on the vertical and some of the chat is coming in on the horizontal. Yeah, there's two different streams that are going at the same time. Josh Burdick, good evening, sir. Good evening, good evening. HOA Prez, due to the ice raids and self-deportations, the labor rates for tradesmen in Silicon Valley have gone up over 25% in less than a year. Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. Wealth Injury, that's so sad to hear about that tenant. Yep, a shame he couldn't get more help. Yep, but he had to want to help himself first and foremost. I totally agree. Same hair escape, and my chat filter is set to all. Yeah, so the reason is that split. One of them is vertical and one of them is horizontal. So there's two streams that launch. It's a new StreamYard thing. We'll see how that works out. Lumberjack, will you please cover the difference between? Okay, I covered that, but let me know if you need me to cover it again down below. HOA Prez, the feds are getting search warrants on building contractors looking for tax evasion and hiring illegal aliens. Interesting. Dimitri, I think my messages are disappearing. Matt, are you still using DIY cost seg? Dimitri, yes, I am, sir. I am still using DIY cost seg. They're absolutely fantastic. Don't forget to use the code. I think it's lumber 1000 or lumber 100, or 100 or 1000 lumber or 100 lumber. But try all those. If they don't work, just send an email to lumberjacklandlord@gmail.com. Let me know, and I'm happy to help set you up, buddy. I push them hard for a discount because I want to make sure you guys get discounts from them. Have you had someone die in one of your units? Julie Anderson asks. No, I have not. I've had no one die in a unit. I've only had them die external to the unit. But this was the first one that we had evicted and then died, within a week of the eviction. We did have somebody else pass away. They were on a vacation. And they didn't come back. Angel R, what would you do in the first position yourself for the best deal in 2026? Are you a fan of recasting loans? Yeah, I've recasted loans. I think the biggest thing, Angel, honestly, is I want to know that the business is running as elite as possible, which means that I've gotten past the acquisition phase, past the stabilization phase, and I've gotten through the optimization phase. Optimization is where it's at. When you fine tune that building and you get it making the most it can possibly make, guys, it makes such a huge difference with the banks. It makes such a huge difference with the banks. It's huge. So I always look at that optimization piece because most landlords barely get through stabilization. And they're just like, okay, on to the next. No, not okay, on to the next. Optimize. Get that thing fully dialed in. Because you know what? When I get properties fully dialed in, the number of issues that we get from those units is almost none. Almost none. Almost none. In fact, we had the ones that we did last year. I think we've gotten like 4 phone calls all year long so far on those buildings that we redid last year. 4 calls. Guess what? Fill your portfolio full of optimized properties and you can have 150 and run it all from your cell phone like I do. Interesting. Let me just check. Oops. Let me just check. I see that I have a message here. I just want to make sure I'm good. Good. We're past. I had a person die in one of my rentals. His girlfriend bailed, but his adult kids moved all the stuff and paid for a move out and clean. I was very impressed with the way they handled that. Yeah, that's really awesome, actually. Dimitri, I have the messages filter set to all messages, and I didn't see any questions earlier in the chat. I do get everything here in the algorithm, or here in my side, because I run StreamYard, and so it shows the two shows running, but it puts all of the messages in the same thing in here. Christopher Ramsey, how you doing? Some might roll the prepayment penalty into the new loan. Also might be worth a slightly higher rate to avoid the prepay. Yeah, usually with DSCRs, they don't have that option. Sometimes they do, but not very often because they want to get you like that. Fairly, me and my lawyer wrote up a special exemption. Can we review it during boot camp? We can review it. I'm happy to give you my thoughts. HOA Prez, Trump message to Canada, we are America, you will be absorbed. I don't think it's like the Borgs, assimilate or die. They're still a sovereign country. I still respect that they're a sovereign country. However, I also respect a business plan being presented and offered. Like, I don't want to acquire Canada by force. I want it to be something where it's more like a marriage and less like a takeover. That I would be okay with marriage, not okay with takeover. Let's see. Oh, what's up, Mark? Good to see you, pal. Trump message. Yes. Hi, Matt. Sorry I joined late. No worries. Boot camp is great. Yeah, I'm having a blast. Boot camp is awesome. You guys are killing it. Hello, Matt. By the way, you have 2 live streams. Yes, I do. Going on at once. People are in the other one talking to the wall. I was asking stuff and getting ignored. Oh, very interesting. I think all of it's coming in here into here. Let's see. I'm going to press a button. Nope. I don't like that version. Gross. Yeah, we'll see. I'm still trying to figure this one out. So sorry for the trouble, but I'm seeing all the questions. I think I'm seeing all the questions. Everyone guessing the states. I remember Florida having a bunch of news. Yeah, Florida's doing really well right now. So is North Carolina. North Carolina's got the technology triangle, which I love. That Raleigh area is just killer. And then Charlotte is getting huge in banking. Wow, Des Moines, yep, was the insurance capital of the country at one point. Yep. Yeah, Des Moines was. I think that I don't know if Connecticut got it back, but do you know where the biggest hold on one second. Yeah, so what's really interesting is let's see. Yeah. So the biggest healthcare ones that you're going to find, the biggest healthcare ones you're going to find are actually Tennessee. Yeah, it's pretty incredible. Tennessee is the biggest ones you're going to find there. So it's pretty awesome. Let's see. It's kind of a weird format. Yeah, so there's a vertical, and I can see that you're in the vertical by the little icon that's next to you. There's also landscape. There's 2 options, guys. But if that helps other platforms, I get it. Yeah, that's really what it is. I think that's why StreamYard came out with it, is it does help with other platforms. Seems to be reading comments, some that I can't see. Yes, sir. I can, because I see them from both. I can tell if it's coming from the vertical or from the horizontal. Hopefully we all get used to this. Freedom Works. I buy insurance for my properties, but my mortgage companies still charge in escrow for insurance. What to do? Then you're paying twice. So literally call them and say, what is the insurance that you're taking out for escrow? Because I pay that out of pocket. They might be paying your insurance company and you're paying your insurance company. So that's just a billing issue. You definitely can work it out, because obviously that shouldn't be a thing. It's vertical on YouTube. Yeah, it's vertical, but it's also horizontal. There's another stream that's an option. Hey, Matt, could you please explain the potpourri class? I think I did, but Andy, just in case I didn't, why is that a question mark? So here we go. So the potpourri, the last class, we actually allow the students to pick in class 11 what they want me to teach on in class 12. That way we can stay current with something that might be immediate in the market, something that everybody's seeing. And they say, hey, we really want to understand this piece of the market. We want to understand how you work with wholesalers. We want to understand whatever, right? Fill in the blank. That's all there. Angel R, you're very welcome, sir. Patriots 21, Jets 7. Ooh, Patriots 21, Jets 14. Oh, dear God. Yeah. Anytime we beat the Jets, it's awesome. Josh Burdick, I've never heard you talk about your parents. How did they help or hinder your journey if it's not too invasive? I don't mind you asking at all. My mom was a real estate agent. She passed away in my early 20s. I moved home and took care of her the last few months she was alive, and then she passed away. The reason that I got into real estate was because I lost all my money in the stock market in the .com crash in the early 2000s. And so I wanted to find assets that gave return on capital and also increased in value. And so there were very few things that found that. When I looked at Wall Street, it didn't have any of the answers I was looking for. I felt like it was an inside job. Again, that stuff could go way down. Oh, S&P goes up this much. Yeah, I get it. But it can also be down it can be down massively in a year or two, whatever. So for me, my preference is tangible assets, something that I can easily liquidate and sell. And stuff that gives me cash flow. So that's why I chose real estate. And 90% of people that are millionaires became millionaires through real estate. That's my preference. Try not to overthink it. Is there a live aspect of your course or is it all pre-recorded? Alex, great question. So the course itself is all pre-recorded, so you can take it at your own pace. We did that on purpose because we wanted people to take it at their own pace. However, the boot camp is live every weekend. Every weekend, 8 p.m. Eastern time, Saturday night. Like we have a class in 2 days at 8 p.m. I'll jump on and we'll spend 3 hours together talking about the lessons from the week and then going through like what Robert Farinelli just asked. They drafted something on a deal that they were working on. And so we'll review that deal. It will review that contract, what they're proposing. We'll review it there in the chat, or not in the chat, but in a live session, just like this, if you were like a normal Zoom call. So we are live 100% for the boot camp. That's all live. And the course is all recorded, but we record that so you can go at your own pace. Kyle Dorn, shout out to Jennifer Stewart, who pulled a list for me last month for Taylor Handyman Business. Most clients are seniors. Pulled a list for seniors that have owned a property for 10 years, sent mailers out in envelopes and converting very well. Love it. See, imagine that. Kyle Dorn took something else that we provided as an amazing resource and doing amazing things with it. Kyle, I love that. I love that you guys make use of the relationships that I create. Try and do that. Is the potpourri in the course of the boot camp? That's in the boot camp. The reason that that's in the boot camp is because we don't always teach the new things and record those things. We record all the boot camps, but the boot camp is where you guys then get to vote and say what that last course gets to be about. Warren Buffett always warns stocks can drop 40% at any time. Warren is a brilliant man, and that's exactly what it is. Chuck, how much is the boot camp, or is that part of the video that we buy? Great question. So, Chuck, to be clear, the recorded part of the course is 9.5 hours, and it's broken up into 11 modules. And then there's 3 modules that are there's 3 lessons that are part of each one of those 11 modules. So it's like 33 or 34 lessons that are in there. They're all pre-recorded. They're all 15 to 25 minutes long. That way you get the heart of what's there. And then what was the other piece too? Or is that part of the video? And so there's the boot camp, which is an add-on to the course. We've had a lot of people just take the course. They were super thrilled with it, loved it, got what they needed out of it. And then there's others that said, hey, I love that, but I'd like to learn a whole lot more, and I'd like to do it with other students as well. And so then there's a 12-week boot camp, and it's 2 to 3 hours, 2 to 4 hours every single week, where it's live, and it's just like this, except you guys get to be on the screen with me, and we talk back and forth and converse and kind of go through it. And it applies to multifamily and single-family houses. Yes, it applies to all that. Correct. Yeah, we cover everything. We cover watch the syllabus. If you watch the syllabus, it's about 20 minutes long. But if you watch the syllabus, that will tell you everything that you need to know about the course. I won't cover it all here. But that covers everything that you need to know. That's everything that's in the course. And then the boot camp is everything that's in the course plus what people are going through. That's why we limit it to 15 people, because you can ask anybody in the chat. Robert's taken it multiple times. Chris Culp has taken it multiple times. There are a ton of people in this course, or a ton of people in this chat that have taken it a bunch of times. That's what I would encourage you guys. Ask anybody in the chat. Chester's taken the course multiple times. But there's a ton of people here that have taken this course many, many, many times. And so I don't limit that. And then the key to the boot camp is we want to get what you're going through and make sure that we're addressing what you're going through, but not advertise it on the web. So that's why we have a closed session there in Mighty Networks. In that closed session, it allows us to speak plainly and clearly, and make sure to really get through to the heart of the matter. So yeah, that's you can ask anybody, like, Robert Farinelli has a goal for me to save him $1 million. I think I've saved him about 300 grand, maybe 400 grand in the 5 times he's taken the course. Dorn has thanked me. Kyle Dorn has thanked me many times. I know he's saved, probably 100 grand. But there's a lot of investors. I know there's nobody that I know of that has taken the course and been like, nah, that sucked. Not anybody. We've not gotten one of those reviews yet. Yeah. Take the course, then go back and absorb the material, take copious notes, then take the boot camp. Very cool. Yep. Yeah, there's a lot there. The other thing too is we see one of the newest models because we can see kind of what people are doing in the course. They'll take the course, the 45-minute module that week, and then they'll do the boot camp on Saturday. That way it truly is step learning, which I actually really like that approach. Yeah, Chester's gone back like 5 times or 6 times, but yeah, it's good. Guys, we are at 10:30. I finally got caught up on all the questions, guys. Thank you so much for an amazing live this week. Hopefully this was helpful to you. Love you guys. Hope you have an absolutely amazing week. Can the recordings of previous boot camps be viewed for a cost? There is no additional cost to them being viewed. We actually put them in your boot camp and then you have access to them. Kyle Dorn says boot camp, sitting down and talking to the smartest man, solving problems and learning how to think. Thank you very much. Yeah, we try. So guys, just so you know, kind of my background, my CV is I'm a company turnaround guy. So I go in, I identify problems, and then I would fix them. So literally what Kyle said, well, I really appreciate what he said. He's exactly right. That's what I do. I listen, I diagnose, and then I prescribe, because most people just be like, well, this is what I would do. Dude, you didn't even listen to the whole thing. I want to diagnose them, so I need all the information I can possibly get. We spend sometimes on one of, Robert Farinelli is a perfect example. He had a challenge in one of his buildings. He came to me and he's like, hey, can I just do a walkthrough of the building? And I was like, go for it. He did a walkthrough of the building. He walked us through the building for 25 minutes. It was valuable for the class because they got to learn things. It was valuable for him because I get to see exactly what he's doing and give him guidance on things he could do to make it better and save money. So yeah, there's a ton of opportunities like that. That's why I love the boot camp. But yeah, what we do is when we finish it, we then load all the boot camps. We had a problem with the platform Mighty Networks and getting those boot camps reloaded. We're actually going through it right now and getting everything back and loaded in because we think that they finally fixed the problem. We tested it with one thing and it looks like it worked. The more you review the material, you'll learn something every single time. I did each time of the 6 times. Seriously, you learn something new every single time. Thank you very much for the kind words, Chester. I appreciate it. Yeah, everything that I've learned is in that course. I put everything I had into it. It's 9.5 hours of lessons that I've learned over 20 years of doing this. And what I love about the boot camp is being able to spend one-on-one time or one-on-team time and have you guys learn things together, get better together, create network and create, this really the camaraderie of a boot camp. That's why I call it a boot camp. So guys, I hope you have an absolutely fantastic rest of your week. Boot campers, be ready. 8 p.m. Saturday night. We are going to hit it hard. There's a lot of stuff to cover, but super excited. Kyle Dorn, Jessica and I learned a new word, Promethean. Do you know the definition? If not, you'll love it. Prometheus. I know the core word. So hit me with it. Let's see it. Thanks, mods, for a great stream. Yeah, my mods, we're super blessed to have amazing mods. I have a budget of $1,000 for a course per year. I get it. Like I said, the good news is if you will learn a lot from the course. There's no doubt in my mind. Yeah, there's no doubt in my mind. And again, I think if you'd ask anybody, Kyle Dorn, super smart. If you ask anybody, they will tell you that the return on the investment that they got in the course, I think, is off the charts. So I'm honored that we get that feedback. But yeah, the core course itself is huge. But yeah, we have amazing mods. Chester, Wealth Building Journey, been with me since the beginning. Hyder, been with me since the beginning. Love you guys. I appreciate you very, very much.
And you guys are certainly a big part of the community and what we do. So yeah, it's awesome. I love doing this. Think about the Prometheus Society. Yeah. Yeah. One of my attorneys is a Mensa member. And so we have a lot of fun because he laughs. We talk about it all the time. And we talk about, how he, graduated from a phenomenal law school, is a Mensa member and all this other stuff. And then he chats with me and he laughs. He goes, honestly, I have better conversations with you than I do with the people at those stupid meetings. I said, I think it's just because I'm more fun and you're smarter. He goes, nah, I'm not smarter. He goes, I might be more educated, but not smarter. And I was like, yeah, maybe. I don't know. Maybe I can be convinced of that. No doubt, but I already spent this year's budget on Deion's course. It's totally okay. I'm not offended. But yeah, there for you when you want it. Kyle Dorm, Promethean means boldly creative, rebellious, and willing to suffer to bring something powerful into the world, just like Prometheus stealing fire from the gods. Yes, I knew that was the core. I do. I love the word. Yep. It's the spirit of defiance in creation, even if it destroys you in the process. You challenge limits, pay the price, and still say worth it. Yeah, I tell you, it takes a lot coming from being a ninth grade dropout, being turned down for every job you could possibly imagine. I got Walmart said no to me twice. Walmart said no to me twice. No joke. I have to find it. I saved one of the cards that they sent me. Because I got basically a Dear John letter, like, hey, deuces, dude. And I got it, and I was so ripped and hurt and mad. I took it and I ripped it up. And I left it in the garage. And then I went back to the garage and I picked up the pieces and I taped it all together. And that was my fuel for quite some time. And yeah, now I still shop at Walmart. I shop at Target more. Suck at Walmart. Walmart is a hot mess. Yeah, it is. But that was the crazy part. They're a hot mess and they still couldn't hire me. I was working on the loading docks. It was crazy. Yeah, I got messed up hands. I got scars all over my hands. They do stupid things. But yeah. So for Christmas this year, I'm considering your course. Alex, would love it. Love to have you. Love to have you. If you have any questions, just hit me up, Lumberjack Landlord. But everything there that's in the course, everything there is in the syllabus. It takes you right through it. So yeah, it's there. There's no doubt in my mind that that it will be worth it for you guys. Fantastic live stream. Thank you so much for all your help. Thank you for bearing with me on the two different versions. We're going to keep that up for just a couple of weeks and see how it goes. But yeah, it was a blast. I really appreciate you guys taking the time, spending it with me. Love you bringing great questions. You guys all did. HOA Press, thanks for all your contributions. Millennial Mike and Deion, always, guys, appreciate you coming and hanging out. Yeah, you guys are all important to me. I love being part of your journey, and I thank you for letting me be a part of it. We will see you guys. We'll see you in the next one.